Hello, welcome to the channel Wise Stories. Enjoy watching.
Abel sat on the couch, sniffling her nose, and weakly tried to object to her despotic mother. "Mom, I don't want to marry an old man. I've never even seen him. And I do not love him. This is wild," she begged. But Sabrina got even madder. "Don't make me angry. Such a person paid attention to you and noticed you among everyone else. Benjamin, a successful businessman, a banker, and he is not old, he is only 28. And who are you? A spineless girl. You've already missed your chance in ballet school. Do you want more? How are you going to live? Where are you going to get the money? You'll thank me later," she shouted. "I wanted to become a teacher, like my father. I wanted to teach children. I'll enroll next year. I'm only 18. Abel tried to say. The woman got furious. "We've already wasted a lot of money on the costumes, the competitions. So you want to take more of our money? You know the level of our life. Your daddy earns nothing, he's useless. And you're the same. I'm sick of one teacher. That's it. We're having dinner with Benjamin's family on Sunday. We can talk about the wedding too. Do whatever you want, but make sure Benjamin wants to marry you. Go wash your face and don't cry," she finished. Abel walked to her room. There was an unfortunate bright red ballet dress hanging in the closet. She hated it. Actually, she hated the red color. But, as usual, no one asked her. Her mother chose this dress, guided by her taste, despite her daughter's protests. And here was the result. Abel didn't feel comfortable in it. She was shy and nervous, all the movements were difficult, and she couldn't do her best. But how could she explain that to her mother? And the girl threw it off the rack and kicked it angrily. Since childhood, Abel was a skinny and weak girl, like a stalk that barely wiggles in the wind. But many people admired her beauty, huge blue eyes, like two lakes, framed by long, thick lashes, plump lips, and a thin, long neck. She had long blonde hair, and her waist was so thin that she seemed to be able to wrap it with only one hand. Abel was very shy, modest, polite, calm, and peaceful. The girl was smart and did well in school. Her mother was in charge of everything in their family. She managed the finances and gave orders as to who and where to go and what to do. Sabrina worked as a senior saleswoman, so she knew how to boss around ineffective employees. Abel's father, Bolivar, worked as a history teacher. He loved and was a little afraid of his wife and did not like scandals at all. It was easier for him to agree with everything than to have to listen to his wife's cries and reproaches. Both in appearance and in character, Abel was like him. Bolivar adored his daughter, called her his little flower, often felt sorry for her, and comforted her. Sabrina was terribly annoyed by this. She considered her husband a worthless loser, unable to earn decent money, shouted at him mercilessly, and treated him as an empty place. When she realized that her daughter was growing up the same as him, she became angry. "I wish she had been more like me with a strong character," the woman often thought. Abel loved her father very much, and she understood that it wasn't easy for him either. She often went for walks with him in the park, or simply sat by the window. He told her interesting stories, and she listened to him speechlessly. Daddy was kind and affectionate. Their characters were completely the same. He often stroked her on the head and felt really sorry for her. Sabrina was terribly annoyed by this, even after her husband died. In fact, her relationship with her daughter did not work out at all. Abel was bullied at school sometimes, and because of her softness and indecisiveness, she didn't know how to hit back. The mother tried to impose her model of behavior on her daughter, but it only made things worse. Her daughter would cry and isolate herself. So Sabrina decided to send Abel to a ballet dancing school. She thought maybe she would get a stronger spirit there. At first, her daughter felt terribly embarrassed and uncomfortable. All her movements were stiff. But Alfonso, the teacher with great experience, found an approach to her because Abel really had talent and diligence. Patience and diligence did their job, and gradually Abel began to show excellent results. She especially liked the Viennese waltz and foxtrot. Abel closed her eyes and completely dissolved in the dance. Graceful twists, plastic and soft, feminine movements, it was so natural. Rumba and salsa were more difficult, but her dancing partner Alejandro supported her greatly. He complimented her, encouraged her, and looked at her with eyes full of love. And Abel always tried to do her best, as she had secretly been in love with Alejandro for a long time, and she was waiting for him to notice it and make the first step, not daring to confess her feelings to him. Her best friend from ballet school, Idalita, was a bright, confident, and defiant redhead. She and Abel were on an equal path to success. Only Abel won the awards with her diligence, grace, and femininity. She perfected her movements to the point of unconsciousness during training, bringing them to automatism. Idalita, on the other hand, had strength and charisma, and everything was easy and playful for her. While Abel was still hesitant to confess her feelings to Alejandro, and only sighed languidly, blushed, and turned her eyes away, Idalita wasted no time and stole the guy. Moreover, it happened right before the most responsible, the final competition, the results of which were to be held to recruit dancers for exclusive teams. Abel was depressed, upset, she could not dance, and she could hardly hit the beat. And that stupid dress. Alfonso was shocked. How is it possible? What happened to the girl? Maybe she got nervous? After all, Abel was one of her best students and showed great promise. And then she failed. She wasn't even in the top 10. It was clear that she could forget about her career and brilliant future. Abel felt very bad, bitter, and hurt. All those years of hard work were in vain. And some fateful set of circumstances had shattered everything in an instant. She wanted someone to support her, to listen to her, to feel sorry for her. But instead, there was a deafening scandal at home. Her mother scolded her and called her mean words. And now this marriage. As always, everything was decided for her, not even asking her opinion. If she had a different character, she would have fought for victory in the competition, and she would take a risk and gone against her mother. But alas, Abel, out of habit, went with the flow and obeyed her despotic mother for the umpteenth time. The whole week before she met her fiancé, Abel was nervous and could barely sleep. She had nightmares about a fat, paunchy, disgusting man. He was pulling his greasy hands toward her, and she screamed and immediately woke up in a cold sweat. God, why do I have to go through this? She cried into her pillow until morning. Finally, the dinner took place at an expensive restaurant. To make her daughter more comfortable, her mother even allowed her to choose a dress and a hairstyle herself. When Abel and her parents entered the restaurant, the guests were already there. They began to get acquainted. To her surprise, the future groom was not fat and not disgusting. He turned out to be a confident, well-dressed, tall, and stately brunette with a strong chin. He was nice and friendly, did not allow himself too much, and his gallantry and manners amazed the girl. In fact, before this meeting, she had never known any men except the boys from the ballet school. Benjamín had long been attracted to this young princess. As part of a delegation, they once attended an event where the girls from the ballet school performed. He was struck by this delicate beauty. She was like a tender, unopened bud, danced and moved perfectly. The boy knew all about her. Since then, he often dreamt about this stranger and was determined to get her by all means. He was fed up with intimacy with glamorous and uninhibited high society girls. He wanted purity and innocence because it was clear at first sight that he would be her first man. It was a real hunting game for him. A long-forgotten zeal and courage appeared. When Abel entered the restaurant, he smiled. She was simply enchanting, a perfect figure, a flowing blue dress that emphasized her deep blue eyes, large curls of golden thick hair scattered over her shoulders, and an innocent blush playing on her cheeks. The boy was drooling. As a skilled macho, he knew he could not win her over with pressure, but would only scare away this wild paradise bird, so he acted carefully and judiciously. He played with her like a cat with a mouse. He lured her in, beckoned her in, paid her delicate compliments, and then behaved in a deliberately businesslike manner, not allowing himself too much. He gave Abel huge baskets of scarlet roses and delicate violets and took her to concerts and festivals without trying to force her into bed. He loved this game. He enjoyed the process, anticipating the finale. Very quickly, the naive Abel fell in love with Benjamín. He seemed to her like some prince from a beautiful fairy tale. He was polite, clever, gallant, and showered her with compliments. She thought that this was happiness, and it will always be so. The wedding was magnificent and pompous, and the wedding night was also divine. Benjamín tried to make this young girl have a lot of pleasure, was gentle and sensitive. The newlyweds started to live together at Benjamín's mansion. Abel's mother was over the moon. She was so happy to be connected to such people. She finally put her daughter in good hands. Benjamín's parents were not happy about their son's choice. Yes, the girl is obviously decent, but she is not equal to them at all. They hoped that soon their son's delirium would pass, and he would find a worthy life partner, according to his status. For the first couple of months, Abel was perfectly happy. She and Benjamín enjoyed passion. He taught her a lot. She whispered words of love in his ear, and he did the same. But soon Benjamín was bored with Abel. He got the desired trophy. He was fed up with the young and innocent body and realized that his wife is malleable and submissive, like plasticine. He could mold whatever he wanted. She instantly fulfilled all the whims of her husband, faithfully looking him in the eye. She forgave him everything and tried to please him in every possible way. This was the trigger that began to irritate him madly. He lacked emotion, drive, and maybe even some kind of confrontation. He realized that he did not love Abel at all, and when the heat of passion subsided, he was no longer interested in her. More and more often, Benjamín began to come home from work late and drunk, not bothering to explain anything, and began to be blatantly rude to his wife, knowing that she would not respond in the same way. Abel was hurt. She did not understand what was going on. What had she done wrong? The more she tried to please Benjamín, the worse it got. He became furious, irritated for any reason. Abel had no idea what to do. It was useless to tell her mother. She would not want to hear about it. She had no close friends left. After Idalata's betrayal, she had lost all faith in women's friendship. After 6 months of married life, Abel began to vomit. She felt worse and worse, and the skinny girl became completely haggard. The annoyed husband said, "God, what do you look like? What is wrong with you? Skin and bones. Go to the doctor and get a checkup. I'll tell the driver to take you to the hospital." The doctor announced that Abel was pregnant. She was overjoyed. "Finally! I will tell Benjamín. He will be happy that I will give him an heir. He will take care of me, and everything will be like it was before," she thought naively. Abel cooked dinner, lit candles, dressed nicely, and waited for her husband to tell him the good news. She waited half the night. Benjamín showed up drunk, smelling of women's perfume. He was shocked when he saw the table set and his devoted silly wife waiting for him as if nothing had happened. Still, he sat down at the table and said with a smirk, "Do we have some kind of holiday? Why aren't you asleep?" Abel started first. "Benjamín, my love, I have great news. Do you know why I felt so bad? I'm pregnant. You're going to be a daddy. Isn't that great? I'm so happy." And she threw her arms around her husband. But he sharply pulled her away and grudgingly said, "Yeah, I can't think of anything better." He slammed the door and went to bed. Abel cried till morning. She was so offended. She sincerely did not understand what was going on with her husband. Why was he doing this to her? Why? She was desperate, but did not even think of doing anything, for she had been accustomed since childhood to going with the flow and obeying the will of others. During her pregnancy, Abel tried not to show herself to her husband. The intimacy between them completely stopped. He only squeamishly looked at his wife's huge belly and swollen legs, and thought to himself, "Cow. It is disgusting to look at her. Why did I marry her? I could just sleep with her and leave her, not tie my life to her." When a girl was born, contrary to the expectations of the doctors and Abel herself, Benjamín became furious. He shouted at the whole maternity ward, "Didn't you say it would be a son? And what is that? You can't even give birth to an heir. I didn't want a girl. I wanted a proper heir." Abel was crying. The nurses comforted her. "You don't have to worry. Men often react like that. We've seen a lot here. And then he will take her in his arms and fall in love. You'll see." But it didn't happen. Her father didn't love Norberta. He often looked at this screaming little lump and found himself thinking that he felt absolutely nothing for his child. The screaming caused a headache and there was no relief. He yelled at his wife, "Calm her down. Why is she screaming day and night? Are you even a mother or what?" Abel comforted and cradled her daughter as best she could and decided to move to the farthest room so that Benjamín would not be disturbed. The man didn't even make any attempt to help with the baby, walk with her, or take her in his arms. He was happy that he could hardly hear his daughter crying and could sleep in peace. He didn't care that his wife was having a hard time and not sleeping at all. After all, no one asked her to have the baby. She could have had an abortion. That was what he thought. Since then, the wife and daughter became a heavy burden for the man, especially since a young, attractive hottie suddenly appeared in his circle. Her name was Augustina, the daughter of a famous businessman. Benjamín immediately fell in love with her. She was in very good shape, with big breasts and a mop of naughty red curls. She was self-confident, flawlessly and stylishly dressed, knew her worth, and knew how to impress anyone. She did not pay any attention to Benjamín. He was rich, but he was married and had a child. Benjamín did everything he could to please Augustina. He completely forgot about his wife and child. He rarely came home and didn't even try to hide the traces of his affairs with other women, and he did not pay any attention to Abel, as if she were nothing, just an annoying mistake. He treated his daughter coldly, too. It annoyed him that she was climbing into his arms and kissing him. He tried to get rid of her quickly, giving her some toys. Abel accepted the role of a servant long ago, silently and uncomplainingly fulfilling everything. Now she had a purpose in life, per Norberta. She kissed every finger of the little hand, breathed in such a sweet baby smell, and adored every mole of the baby. Norberta was a copy of her father, a tall, brown-haired, and bright girl, and her character was also not like her mother's. She realized very early that her mother loved her, but her father hated her. She sensed this, but she was not going to keep quiet. The more she asked her father why he did not love her and her mother, the more the situation in the family became tense. When Norberta went to school, the unexpected happened. The daughter felt very sorry for her mother and did not understand why she was silent, why she did not scold her father for his drunkenness, and why she allowed him to treat her this way. Abel begged her daughter not to involve in this situation. She felt it would only get worse. But Norberta, stubborn beyond her years, contradicted her. Mom, asked father why he treats us this way. I want to know the truth. You cannot cry and be silent all the time. I feel sorry for you." And she hugged her mother tightly with her little arms, trying to protect her from her sorrows and troubles. The negativity and resentment she had accumulated over the years poured out once. Apparently, there was no room for them anymore in the woman's soul. Benjamín came home from Augustina after midnight. As usual, he had seduced her and lied to her every day that he would divorce his wife. To his surprise, his wife stood on the threshold of the room and immediately, without any preamble, asked, "Benjamín, we have to talk. We can't go on like this. Are you cheating on me? Even our daughter already senses that you don't love us. Please tell me the truth. I beg you." Abel, the man, suddenly became furious, pushed Abel, who almost fell, and shouted, "The truth? After 6 years you finally dared to open your mouth and find out what was going on? Really? Yes, I have another woman, and I love her. I'm sick of you. I can't stand the sight of you. Is there something you don't like? Then get the hell out of my house, both of you. Why are you so quiet? Are you used to living at my expense? If that's the case, shut up and get out of my room. You're nothing without me, a zero. You're a failed dancer. He shoved Abel again roughly and closed the door. The woman hit her elbow hard, bent and cried out in sharp pain, but her husband did not even look back. Tears covered her eyes. She barely made it to her room. Abel was crying. Frightened by her cries, her daughter woke up and ran to her mother. They sat together, cuddling, and comforted each other. Norberta stroked Abel's hair and said, "It's him, isn't it? I heard everything. I hate him. Why won't you leave him? He doesn't love us. You deserve better." Her daughter persuaded her to get a divorce. But Abel, as if making excuses, said, "Norberta, you can't say that. After all, he is your father. And where should we go? Grandma won't take us in. I can't leave him. We just have nowhere to go. Do you understand? We must be patient, my dear. Maybe Daddy will change and everything will be all right with us." She reassured her daughter, even though she knew Benjamin would never change. A month after that wild quarrel, Benjamin came home from work earlier than usual, sober, and said to Abel, "Okay, so I hurt you. I almost wiped my feet on you, but you keep tolerating it. That's enough. Listen to me. I'm divorcing you and marrying Augustina. I love her. I don't need you anymore. Go pack your belongings. Right now you're moving into a new house I bought. Not a fancy mansion, but you should be thankful for that too." Abel went numb, and Benjamin quickly added, "Hurry up, why are you standing there? Or I'll change my mind, and you'll simply go outside." Norberta could not understand anything and bombarded the distraught mother with questions, while Abel hurriedly put her and her daughter's belongings into the suitcase. "Mommy? Where are we going? Are we going there for a long time? Should I take my toys?" Abel didn't know what to say to the poor, frightened child, because she was no less frightened. The driver was already waiting outside. Benjamin shouted angrily, "Will it take you forever to pack your suitcase? Here are the papers for the house. Hurry up, I have no time." He gave the weeping Abel the folder. Even at such a moment, the woman attempted to humiliate herself and talk to her husband. "Benjamin, what are you doing? Think about your daughter. We are family. You can't do that. Come to your senses. What have I done to you?" The father tried not to look at his daughter. Walking out of the house, Norberta suddenly shouted out, "You're kicking us out, aren't you? I hate you. You are evil." Benjamin grinned. "You're just like your father, smart and sharp-tongued, not like your mother." They drove for a long time, for hours over bumps and potholes. The village the driver took them to was called Cadena. When Abel saw the house where she and her daughter had to live, she was hysterical. It was not even a house, but a tiny barn, all cluttered up, doors and windows were crooked, and the fence had fallen a long time ago. The yard was covered with weeds and bushes. Norberta did not understand anything at all, and frightened, clung to her mother. The driver unloaded their bags and said goodbye. "Goodbye, Abel. You are a good woman. The boss doesn't realize what he's doing. Here, you and your daughter will need it." He put the money in her hand. Hearing the noise, Sarah, the neighbor, came out to see who had arrived. It is rare for anyone to come to their village. She saw a young, well-dressed woman with suitcases sitting on a stump, and a girl of about 5 years old with her, frightened. And Sarah realized that people were in trouble. Sarah called out to Abel, "Hello, pretty girls. Well, don't cry, there's no use. Are you going to spend the night here? It's no good, especially with a child, and such dust. Come on, you can sleep at my place and tell me everything over dinner. My name is Sarah. And you?" Norberta answered, "I'm Norberta, and my mother's name is Abel. Our daddy kicked us out of the house and sent us here to live. So mommy is crying. He is wicked and bad." The old lady twisted her head. "What a misfortune. What kind of a monster can send his little girl into such a remote place at night? And she took the guests to her place. Sarah set the table and made tea. Her house was warm and cozy. She looked at the exhausted woman and gave her some sedative drops. Dash here, drink this, while I'll make some mint tea for you. Don't cry, darling, tell it like it is. Maybe I can help? I'm alone, not by my own choice either. My son died, and my daughter-in-law turned out to be a cunning snake. So I live here on my own. It's okay, you'll get used to it. Local people are nice and sympathetic, they won't let anyone hurt you. Abel calmed down a little, and while Norberta went to play with the cat, suddenly, she said everything that had been on her mind for all these years. She just really needed to talk to someone, so that the burden of resentment did not completely overwhelm her. The old woman listened silently without interrupting, only sighing sometimes. Then she said, "That's all right, Abel, don't be sad. Everything the Lord gives is always for the best, you'll see. You say you had a bad life with him, he hurt you. Instead of complaining, get yourself together and get your house in order, and the neighbors will help. Fate sent you here for a reason. Go to the village council, maybe they'll find a job for you. You're a smart and pretty woman. There's a school here, Norberta will go to school. You'll get used to it." 2 weeks later, Abel and Norberta already stayed overnight in their own house. During this time, together with Sarah and another neighbor, they worked very hard from dawn till dusk. They washed, painted, swept, and weeded. Abel got a job at the post office as a clerk. It was not the job she had dreamed of, but she had no choice, she had a daughter to raise. Life was gradually getting better. Norberta, contrary to Abel's fears, did not miss her father at all, she even liked rural life. The spaciousness, the river. And Abel somehow calmed down and ceased to torment herself from day to day. It was as if she had been freed from the vice that had squeezed her to the point of exhaustion. The dark circles under her eyes disappeared, and she smiled more often. One day, while delivering parcels, she saw a dirty little puppy floundering in a sewage pit. It was howling desperately. Abel left her bicycle and bag and rushed to save the poor dog. She nearly fell into that pit and got dirty, but pulled the poor little dog out. He kept howling. Abel rushed home, carrying her finding under her coat. She shouted from the doorway, "Norberta, look who I just rescued. I think something's wrong with his paw." The girl rushed over and, with both worry and tenderness, started to fuss over the puppy. Abel said confusedly, "What should we do? There is no veterinary clinic. How should we treat him?" Norberta replied, "Don't worry, Mammy. And actually, it's a girl. Go to work. And I'll feed her, bathe her, and then go to Sarah. We'll figure something out." And the little girl happily rushed off to take care of her new pet. In the evening when Abel came home, she saw a heartwarming scene. Norberta was playing in the yard, and a puppy was trying to serve a ball with her nose next to her. She turned out to be very cute, white with red spots. Abel laughed, and Norberta said, "Mommy, I named the dog Rosarita. She will live with us, since you found and rescued her, right? Look how smart she is. Rosarita, throw me the ball." The girl told. And Rosarita really threw the ball with her nose. So fun. Since childhood, Abel had taught Norberta to dance. She did not force her, rather, it was for fun. They often turned on the music and waltzed together. In the village, as a matter of habit, they continued evening lessons. Norberta learned everything instantly, she was really gifted. Sarah often watched them dance and was amazed at how skillfully they did it all. When Norberta went to the 2nd grade, there was a dance competition at school and she was chosen to participate in it. The girl was over the moon and wondered how everyone knew that she could dance. She had no idea that it was Sarah who told the principal how brilliant Norberta was at dancing. An important committee was to attend the competition. They were looking for talented children to join their team. The daughter got worried. "Mommy, what am I going to wear? I don't have a dress for the competition. Everyone else will be beautiful, but what should I do? Abel smiled. Let's go, Norberta, let's design an outfit for you. She rummaged in her closet and pulled out the bright red dress her mother had once bought her. The daughter opened her mouth in amazement. What a beautiful dress. Mom, is it yours? Only it's too big for me. Abel took a sewing machine out of the closet. What are our hands for? Let's make you the best dress ever. Maybe this dress will bring you luck. The dress was a success. The red color suited her daughter very well because she was a bright brunette and her temper was burning, just like her father. Norberta performed brilliantly and won one of the top positions. Hall gave a standing ovation. Abel clapped her hands and cried with joy and proudness, remembering her performances and prizes. Backstage, a handsome gray-haired man of about 45 came up to them, limping badly on one leg and rubbing his back. He introduced himself. Hello. Was it your daughter who danced the Viennese waltz so brilliantly? Who was her teacher? This is the first time I've seen such a professional technique. Bravo. My name is Rafael. I'm a member of the committee and the owner of the Todd's Dance Studio. Have you heard of it? Abel gasped. Of course, she heard of it. Not only heard, but wanted to get there. The performances of this team were known all over the world. She even felt embarrassed. Hello. I'm Abel. I used to attend dance school for many years, but failed to become a dancer. My daughter and I danced just for fun. Glad you liked it. The man smiled. Listen, Abel. I have a business proposition for you. I'm looking for a ballet dancing teacher. Would you like to give it a try? If you manage to teach a 7-year-old child to dance so skillfully, you'll certainly do the job perfectly well. As you can see, I have health problems, my back is killing me. But I don't want to give up, it's my business and my life. Abel blushed and felt even more embarrassed. What if I fail? I've never worked as a teacher, and I'm not a professional. Rafael answered, I've been doing ballet dancing all my life and I can tell the difference between professional and amateur movements. You have to start somewhere, just say yes. I'll rent you a cozy apartment, not far from the studio. There is a good school nearby. What are you doing in this remote village? Norberta, who was silent until this moment, could not bear it. Mom, just say yes. There's nothing to think about. Rafael, we accept this offer. Don't listen to her, she is very clever, and she's a super dancer. But she's very shy. Rafael laughed. Abel thought, well, why am I afraid of everything in the world? I have to learn to make my own decisions at some point. Because my daughter is already braver than me. She nodded her head. Okay, we agree. Abel and her daughter moved to the city. The apartment Rafael rented was very cozy and nice. She began to give ballroom dancing lessons to the children. Surprisingly, she felt very comfortable and relaxed with the children. She was not embarrassed at all, she did not shout at them, and gradually the first successes appeared at the performances. Abel really had pedagogical talent from her father. She could find a special approach to any child. During that time, she and Rafael became very close to each other. He told the woman that a year ago he was hit by a drunken driver at a crosswalk and his spine was injured. Doctors insist on urgent surgery, though they warn him it is too risky, and considering his condition he might not come out of anesthesia at all. So he suffers and endures terrible pain. Abel also gradually began to trust Rafael, and she told him about her life, her failed career as a dancer, and her terrible marriage. They could spend hours sitting over a cup of coffee and talking about dancing, about life. Rafael and Norberta became very good friends. Although he did not have children, he had worked with them all his life, so he knew children's psychology well. Abel caught herself many times thinking that she had never felt even a bit of this kind of tenderness and admiration for her husband. There was passion, emotions, and then only doom. And with Rafael, they had an amazing spiritual closeness, despite the age difference. He was very much like her father, as intelligent and quiet and amazingly kind. Abel tried her best to persuade Rafael to undergo surgery, as his health was deteriorating and he could no longer function without a wheelchair. She gave him injections and massages, but all of these treatments had only a temporary effect, and he needed a drastic measure. One day, right in the middle of the session, the phone rang. Abel picked up the phone. Rafael's faint voice was on the other end of the line. "Abel, hi, can you come over to my place right now? I really need it." Without thinking for a second, she shouted, "I'll be there in 10 minutes," and rushed off like a madwoman. There was an ambulance outside the Rafael mansion. Abel felt cold inside, and her feet felt like cotton. When she entered, she saw Rafael, pale and in pain, lying in bed. The paramedics were bustling nearby. When he saw the woman, he asked them to leave the room for a few minutes. Rafael said quietly, "I don't feel well, Abel. I've made up my mind. They're taking me to surgery. I can't wait any longer. I don't know if I'll make it. You know my situation. Take that blue folder on the shelf over there. It's for you. There's a deed of gift for you. This mansion, the summer house, the cars, all my possessions. You know I'm lonely. And I want you and your daughter to keep it all. I don't need it alone. And also, remember, I love you. From the minute I saw you. I know I'm too old for you and I don't expect anything from you. I just have to say it." Abel cried out in a flood of emotion, "Everything will be all right, you'll see. I believe it. Thank you for everything, you're a real man." Rafael was taken away, and Abel followed him to the hospital. On the way, she picked up Norberta from school, and they were sitting together in the hallway of the hospital, waiting for the surgery to be over. It was already late at night, but the doctor still hadn't come out of the operating room. After crying all their tears, they fell asleep on the couch. They were awakened by the voice of a tired doctor. "Don't torture yourself. Go home. The child needs to have proper rest. The surgery is over. But the prognosis is not good. Rafael is in a coma, and we're supporting his condition. It's still critical. I did everything I could." Abel rubbed her eyes and turned her head. "Doctor, I'll take my daughter home now. But let me stay with him. I'm begging you. I'll just sit quietly by his side. I really need this." The surgeon wanted to argue, but looked into the huge blue eyes, full of tears and sadness, and said, "Whatever you want." For 3 days Rafael was between heaven and earth. Abel was near his bed day and night. She read books to him, stroked his hands, and whispered all the prayers she knew, as if in a delirium. "Lord, help me, let him live. I beg you. I don't want to live without him. I love him, Lord. I love him as I've never loved anyone before. Let us live together on this earth a little longer." Through the fog and the white veil, Rafael heard fragments of her declarations of love and desperately tried to wake up, but his eyes would not open. Suddenly he was able to open them. He saw Abel, pale and weeping, with dark circles under her eyes. She was dozing and holding his hand tightly. Norberta sat quietly as a mouse in the corner, drawing something with pencils. She was the first to notice that Rafael was conscious, and she began to wake Abel and shout, "Mommy, hooray, Rafael's awake. Everything is going to be okay now." Abel looked at the man. He was looking at her and tried to smile. She squeezed his hand even harder and whispered, "God, thank you. I waited for you." The restless little girl ran up to Rafael and showed him the picture. "Look, that's Mommy, that's you, that's me, and that's our house and our dog Rosarita. Can we take her from the village? She is bored there. Do you know how funny she is? She can bring a ball in her teeth." Norberta was talking nonstop. Rafael felt so peaceful and happy. He realized he was no longer alone. Now he had a real family. It had turned out to be so important to be needed by someone. From that day on, Rafael began to recover, and Abel actively helped him with his rehabilitation. And after a month, he could walk again. Finally, the terrible pain no longer plagued his body. Now the three of them couldn't imagine living without each other. Abel and Norberta moved into Rafael's mansion. One day, the whole family was having dinner at a cozy restaurant. The mood was great, and everyone was joking and having fun. Out of the corner of her eye, Abel noticed a loader carrying heavy boxes of groceries into the restaurant, who was looking at her. When he looked at her intently once again, she wondered, "Why is that loader looking at me like that? I don't think I know him." Norberta suddenly perked up and frowned. "Mom, look. It's my father. Except he looks very bad." Abel did not want to meet or communicate with Benjamin. The memories of his abuse was too painful for her. She would never talk to him again if it weren't for Norberta. The restless daughter ran up to him and asked loudly, "Hello, Daddy, don't you recognize your daughter?" Benjamin became ashamed and embarrassed, and he murmured, "No, Norberta, of course I recognized you. You have grown so much. You've become so beautiful. I just didn't want to disturb you." Norberta did not calm down. "Rafael, meet my dad. He kicked me and my mom out of the house. Isn't that great?" The little girl sneered. Benjamin blushed and hissed at his daughter. "Norberta, darling, let's go outside and talk, not in front of strangers. I'll explain everything to you," and he hurried out of the restaurant when he saw that other people were looking at them. Abel and Rafael also left. The woman didn't want to leave her daughter alone with this monster. Trying not to show her nervousness, Abel asked in a casual tone, "Benjamin, why are you here? You are an entrepreneur, aren't you?" The man got quite upset and mumbled, "You see, Augustina left me, bankrupted me. She made such a cunning plan with her father. I was left with nothing. They took the house for debts, too. Now I'm working as a loader. I could hardly get a job. I sleep here, in the back room. I don't know what to do next." Abel didn't know what to say. On the one hand, she shouldn't have felt sorry for him because he had hurt her so much. On the other hand, if not for him, she would never have met Rafael. And once again, the brave little girl solved the problem. "Mom, let Daddy live in the house he gave us. It's empty anyway. He'll like it there." And she laughed merrily. Abel said quietly, "You can live there if you like, I don't mind. By the way, meet my husband, Rafael." Benjamin said quietly, "Well done, Abel, you've achieved great success. There are posters with your performances all over the city. Can I visit Norberta sometimes?" he asked. But once again the daughter surprised everyone and answered briskly, "Don't you want to ask me first if I want to see you? Don't visit me. I have nothing to talk to you about. I have a real dad, Rafael. He would never hurt me and my mom or kick us out. Mom, let's go. We need to buy food for Rosarita." And she pulled Abel by the hand. The three of them walked away. Norberta was murmuring something cheerfully to Rafael, who was laughing and holding her hand. Abel looked so happy and confident. "What an idiot I am. I've been such a narcissist," Benjamin thought. "What was I missing? A loving pretty wife, a daughter who looks just like me. And I lost everything for that rascal Augustina. And now my Norberta thinks a strange man is her father. She loves him. And she doesn't need me at all." There was a shout from behind. "Benjamin, where the hell have you been? Do I have to carry the load alone?" His workmate was indignant. At the end of the shift, out of habit, Benjamin bought a bottle of liquor and drank it with his workmate, complaining about his unjust fate. And Abel walked along thinking, "What a blessing that Benjamin had kicked me out that day. Otherwise, I would have suffered with him all my life." She snuggled up to her husband and whispered, "Thank you for everything, my love."
If you're enjoying it as well, leave a like and subscribe to the channel.